where the lines are drawn. As on the congressional district on the Senate Committee for the Congressional Redistricting, I had a great concern that the House map and the Senate maps were so very similar, considering we had two different offices, two different persons, two different sets of equipment. They came up with very, very, very similar maps, which maybe the same person drew the map. That caused me a great deal of concern. And as we've heard earlier, we had a lot of consternation and strife in coming to an agreement on a map that was finally voted out of the chamber and then was vetoed by the governor, and we know the history on that. There wasn't a lot of inclusion as discussion went in that. Our leadership, as a Democrat, our leadership was not included in that discussion. These maps were just spit out at us, and we were supposed to sign them and move forward. And I think I'm on record as having not signed it and disagreed with the process. When I looked at the map that I first saw, I thought at first that it was a phantom map. I couldn't believe that it would come back to us with an east-west orientation. And I don't know if any of you have been on this committee or any of you who probably have been in the process informally across the 20 or 30 years that we've done this. St. Louis struggled to get a north-south orientation because of our prolific racial issues in the city that continue to this day. A north-south orientation allowed any senator from either side of, and at that time, I think we had 5, we're down to 3, allowed a lot more constituent diversity inside the district. If you go east to west, you essentially create a Mason-Dixon line in the city. And you did not create discussion, you created a great deal of ire because we fought this issue for many, many decades. And you yet may hear this again from some other presenters. It's patently unfair for us not to have access to the full breadth of diversity in the city. In the southern part of the city, we have large populations of Bosnians, Hispanics, and growing Asians. And when you cut the district in half, and you again have underscored the polarization that we have lived through for far too many decades, we cannot continue to do that. The way the line now is a much more reasonable approach. And I recognize that there are going to be differences and changes, but to just let it flop 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. is not good. You need to, somewhere in there, waver a little bit and come more toward center as it stands, because you will only, once again, exacerbate the issue of our polarities, whether it's in school or housing patterns, whether it's in representation from reps or aldermen or as well as senators. I'm in my 3rd year of my 1st term, and the 2nd term only comes if we run and if we win. So you can't say I've got 5 more years. I hope so. I know I have until next December. I know that. I'm going to do all I can to stay there and represent the people. But that is my concern. We do not need to have another racial discussion in the city of St. Louis. That one has been had, and we have an answer to it. And I would hope that those of you who are from St. Louis, I'm not sure who, if you've been involved in the city politics, that you are certainly aware of our issues, and we don't need to create that type of situation. And I think the way the map came in, Senator Kennedy was north and I was south. I mean, it was almost laughable. He and I kind of laughed at it for a moment until I realized that it was real. And then I became concerned as to, did you talk to anybody? Are you listening to anybody? Do you know our history? And it has to be said because it's real. Not to say it is to overlook something that's very, very important. We don't need politics as usual. I think we're moving away from that, and I'm certainly going to be one to voice the concern that we don't go back into a history mode, a civil war era mode, and fight things that we've already fought, because we have enough things that we have not worked out as it is. St. Louis is provincial enough. Life in St. Louis can be oppressive because of these racial disparities across the board, whatever they are, and we need not have our representation involved in that. I would certainly hope that you would stop and look at it again. I may present you a map. Senator Kennedy and I have not had any formal discussions. We've had a very loose discussion about an area that he is the committee man for and represents, an area that I had in the House. I was in the House for 7 years in the 63rd District, which is the chunk of the 5th District as it now stands. So I have a very strong base there as it is. And for anybody coming after me, it's a very diverse base. It would be a very good base to launch a career off of. But if you split us up in a racial pattern, I know there are guidelines that require that you don't do that, and I'm thinking that this map is not honoring that you really give this a hard look and skew our lines a little more north, west, south, east. If you can't go a pure north to south, please look at that very carefully. The North St. Louis area, we've lost 30,000 persons in population in the city of St. Louis. We have an empty state rep district, which would be Jeanette Mount Oxford. She's not running again. So it's important to me, not just as the potential, the next senator for the 5th, but just for the dialogues that we have within the city and the base that we need to go forward and be as productive as we can. We're the core of the region. There is a St. Louis Regional Council, of which I am the chair at the moment. The regional council extends to Warren County. There are 73 of us that are reps and senators that represent the region, and we do come together to try to vote and work for what's best for the region, because we recognize that the region and Kansas City is the heart of the economic engine in this state. So again, my concerns are there, and I certainly hope that you will give that serious consideration as you move forward.